thing is I actually perform better at work because I run. I feel not only the physical benefits of running, but I feel it emotionally and mentally and just all across my life. Um, you know, you actually release endorphins when you go run. And just having that mental clarity and physical clarity helps me out a lot. I also use that time to myself. I think we live in a society where we're in front of a screen all the time. If we're working, we're in front of a computer, or maybe we're on our phone, or maybe we're watching a TV. When I'm running, I'm not looking at a screen at all.
Accounting crypto means thousands of transactions, fluctuating prices, multiple wallets, exchanges, and bank accounts. One mistake means inaccurate reports, compliance risks, and wasted hours. CoinExBooks simplifies it all. Seamlessly import transactions, automate categorization, and get real-time insights, fast, accurate, stress-free. CoinExBooks, your solution to the chaos.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Web3 Accountant podcast, a radio podcast. Today we have with us Nik from Mazars US. Is that correct?
That's correct. Forvis Mazars US. Yep.
Yep. Hi, Nik. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Hi. We are lucky to have Nik today here because other than being a practitioner within the digital asset world, he is also supporting a charity Whizz-Kidz while being very active within the doing exercises. Recently, he just broke a 3 hours record in Boston Marathon. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very exciting.
Congrats to you, you know. How was the experience?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, this was my second year in a row running Boston. And I have to say that last year, whenever I ran it, I completely blew up. So I went out too fast, and by mile 18, which is where the hills come into play, my body was not prepared for what was to come, and I fell apart. My pace drastically went down, and ended up also with really bad blisters on my feet, which didn't help at all either. So honestly, having that experience of running it last year to running it this year helped me out a whole lot. I mean, I knew how to better pace myself throughout the marathon this year. And I think it also helped me a lot in my training leading up to the race. So I knew how to prepare. I ran more hills in my training. I focused on more long runs, and whenever I did have those long runs, making sure that I was getting in hills towards the end of those long runs, just like the hills in Boston. So overall, I mean, just the energy along the course in Boston is amazing. There's fans along all 26.2 miles of the course cheering you on, and it's really encouraging whenever you're going through a difficult time on the course in those later miles.
Wow, sounds very fun. And I mean, after your experience last year, this year was okay. Like was there any memorable moments this year? Because last year seems like injury like you had a little bit of injury and it wasn't a very memorable run.
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, I improved my time by about 13 minutes year over year, which I was super excited about. And my body is in much better shape now, shortly after the Boston Marathon than it was last year. Last year, I couldn't even run for about 3 weeks after the marathon. This year, I've already gone for a couple of runs, even 7 days after the marathon. So I let my body heal for about a week and got back out there. And running is just one of those habits that I have now. It's a hobby and a habit at the same time, and I really enjoy it.
What's your training schedule like? I assume that I mean correct me if I'm wrong, you're very busy because of how volatile the crypto world is and working at an accounting practice is busy. And yeah, how do you balance it? And then like what is your training schedule like?
Yeah, it's funny. So my spouse gives me a hard time for it because, I work so much, and she said, you know, for somebody that works so much, you really picked another hobby that also takes up a lot of your time, and that's difficult. And she's right. It definitely is. And currently, my training cycle for this previous marathon that I just ran in Boston, I peaked at about 61 miles in a week. I came off an injury actually at the end of last year. So I had to take it very strategically and not go too hard, too fast in my training cycle this time. So added about anywhere from, they say, 8 to 10% is about the most that you can add per week. So I started at about 20 miles a week, added about 10% every week over about 15 weeks, and that got me to about 61 miles just a couple weeks before the marathon. So yeah, I mean those 60 miles a week, that takes about 8 hours, 8 to 9 hours a week. So it's about an hour or so a day, and it's just one of those non-negotiables for me. The thing is I actually perform better at work because I run. I feel not only the physical benefits of running, but I feel it emotionally and mentally and just all across my life. Um, you actually release endorphins when you go run, and just having that mental clarity and physical clarity helps me out a lot. I also use that time to myself. I think we live in a society where we're in front of a screen all the time. If we're working, we're in front of a computer, or maybe we're on our phone, or maybe we're watching a TV. When I'm running, I'm not looking at a screen at all. I have no distractions. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts, sometimes I'll listen to music, and sometimes I'll just zone out. But what I always do is I typically run in the evening, so I reflect on my day, and it helps me just like feel really prepared going into the next day for what I need to get done or what maybe I could have done better at work that day.
So like for your runs itself, just curious, are you at zone two or like how does it feel like?
Oh, sorry, say that again?
But during your runs, like your heart rate, is it like spiking or do you like it's just a happy run for you?
Oh, yeah. So actually, when it comes to running, there's a couple different methods of thought, but the one that I follow is that 80% of your runs are actually should be what they call easy runs. And that's where you want your heart rate to be in what's called zone two. And that zone two heart rate for me is around 130 beats per minute to 138 beats per minute or so, right? So, but if you look at my splits for the marathon, though, my heart rate is much higher. It averaged about 160 beats per minute. So 80% of my training runs are easy. The other 20% is actually faster than the race pace, faster than 160 beats per minute. And you're doing interval training typically in those runs. And so, what is interval training? So, an example of one of those interval training runs would look like maybe like an 8 by 800. So, you would do an 800-meter run, and then you would rest for, let's say, 2 minutes. And then you would do another 800-meter run, rest for 2 minutes, and just do that 8 times. And that gets your heart rate up. You're also running a lot faster than you would in a marathon. That interval training is typically what helps people get faster.
Thank you. So one last one about this running is about like recovering. So what's your choice of like do you go for massages? Do you go for um yoga? Do you do stretching? Or is it like I have no time for all this, I just run and I stretch. So like how is it like?
Yeah, I actually don't, you're right. I don't have a ton of time for recovery, but they say the best way to recover is to get sleep. And so sleep is also very important in my life. I'm typically in bed by 10 o'clock, typically waking up around 7 o'clock. So I'm typically getting a solid, 8.5 to 9 hours a day. And that is really what helps me recover the most.
Thank you. So the other one, like, when I first saw you online, it's like you were raising funds for Whizz-Kidz while running a Berlin marathon. Like, what gives you the idea and why them? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Whizz-Kidz, they are a nonprofit charity that actually supports kids that may have handicap disabilities, and so they provide wheelchairs to kids or young adults even. And for me, what it was is that I feel so blessed to even be able to go run the amount of mileage that I'm able to run, and the older that I get, the less that I'll be able to run. So I'm trying to take advantage of this as much as possible while I'm still somewhat young. But there are kids and young adults out there that can't even run at all because maybe they're handicapped. And so this is me just trying to give back to that community and hopefully be able to share what I love in running with them and their mobility and their ability to navigate around the world.
I see. So many people like to like maybe do that privately. but you're doing like fundraising. Like did something inspire you to follow, or like how was it last year, or like what is this your first time, or how is it like yeah.
Yeah, so this is my first time fundraising for Whizz-Kidz. On the marathon circuit, there's what's called the World Marathon Major. So there's seven of them now. There's Boston, New York, and Chicago in the US. And then internationally, there's London, Berlin, Tokyo, and now Sydney is the seventh one. They'll be first year in 2025 as a marathon major. And these are highly coveted races to get into. For example, the London Marathon last year had 840,000 people apply to be a part of that race for only 55,000 spots. So it's very difficult to be a part of these races. And one of the ways that you can improve your chances is by fundraising through a charity. And I actually have a friend who I connected with that's also a CPA, and he's fundraised for this charity before, and he recommended them, and so I decided to jump on the bandwagon and join him in Berlin and help raise money for this good cause.
Oh, we are doing good, but now even running a difficult marathon is like getting a job, or get going to grad school where you have to prepare your resume. But okay, thanks for sharing. But everything is very strategic, and yeah. So before we wrap up this podcast, like what are your thoughts? 2024 we have passed by 4 months, and for digital assets wise, it's very exciting in the US this year. Many changes. Trump just came on board. So for the rest of 2025, what are you looking forward to within the industry?
Yeah, within the US specifically, I'm excited to see these stablecoin bills coming together and actually getting passed. There's one in the House, there's one in the Senate. I think that they're trying to reconcile the differences between the two, and I'm hopeful that one of these will eventually get passed into law here in the next few months. And I also think that a market structure bill there's a strong case that that could get passed this year too. So once we have that regulatory clarity in the US on stablecoins, I think we'll start to see a lot more entrance into the market from TradFi. And then once we get the market structure bill passed, then I think that will also create more momentum for crypto native companies to come back to the US that have previously went offshore because of the regulatory uncertainty.
Thank you. I just heard over the weekends. I'm not sure if it is hearsay, but seems like Ripple is putting a proposal to buy Circle.
I did see that rumor floating around online. I think Circle's also publicly stated that they're wanting to go public. So I would be shocked. Now, Circle is not a client for us in the US, so I don't really have any insight into what Circle's intentions are, but I would be shocked if there was some sort of buyout that Ripple, bought out Circle. Who knows? I'm not in those conversations, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's exciting because when I see M&A inside a sector, it means that there's things moving, and it brings a lot of eyeballs to the sector, and it's stablecoins, and stablecoins is on the rise in a lot of jurisdiction, and then like what you mentioned in the US, it is happening as well. So yeah, that is very exciting. Any last words from you, Nick?
I think when people hear that I run marathons, they think that I am maybe some sort of superhuman or extraordinary, those sorts of things. And I kind of want to dispel that. And I think that if even if it's not running marathons, it could be anything that you dream about or have goals in your life. If you're consistent with it enough, like I said, it's been about 3 years for me now to build up to where I'm at. If you're consistent and you put in a little bit of hard work, you can achieve anything that you want to do in your life.
Thank you, Nick. So, guys, if you want to support Nick and his running adventures, you can make a small donation to him. Something very fun. It's also my first time doing it. I made a small little donation, and it's via stablecoin. So, if people have been speaking to say, what is the use case of stablecoins? Well, one of it would now be to, you can contribute to a charity with stablecoins. So, that is very fun. And yeah, I think the other one is Boston Marathon is really not easy. Nick the way he speak, he makes it simple, but it's like the elite of the races. And to get in, you have to be qualified, and the time is actually very, very tough. So very lucky here, for Nik to spend his precious time aside from his spouse, running, and his work with us, the Web3 Accountant community. Thank you, Nik. Yeah, if you all enjoyed this episode, do like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.